Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Coffees with James. I'm James, and this show you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram is my morning coffee show. Yes, the morning coffee show. I am doing one today because I just got done watching the second Batman movie, Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, and Michelle Pfeiffer, and Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, one of my friend's favorite actor, Pam. And also a pretty good soundtrack in there, too. I haven't listened to the full song, but again, the flood of memories coming back from that movie made me feel like a child again. And just remembering how tough I was as a kid. I'll get into the the controversy in just a moment, but I want to talk about Batman, and I want to talk about the second Batman movie because I want to talk about the story of it. So it basically takes place 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 4 years after the first movie. Batman defeated the Joker. Gotham City kind of accepts Batman, but now it takes place during Christmas time, so 93 is just around the corner. You've got a new threat coming and emerging, that is the Penguin. You know, his whole origin story is that his parents, played by Pee Wee Herman, and I forget the woman's name, Paul Rubens, basically dump him into the river because he looked like a freakish monster. 33 years later, he's grown up in the sewers, and he just wants revenge on Gotham City's entire, spectrum. He wants all the children dead. He basically wants to destroy Gotham. Let's be honest. You get fucked over. You want to kill all the children. His original plan was kidnap all the firstborn children. Then it was to destroy Gotham City, killing all the children, and then killing everybody in the city. But while that's going on, Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken, wants to build a new nuclear power plant that's going to be a capacitor, rather, to steal energy from Gotham City, so he becomes a rich billionaire. Excuse me. So anyway, that's going on. Basically, Batman... So basically, Penguin kidnaps Max Schreck to basically blackmail him into finding his parents again, finding who he is. But also he wants to get into the records of the children, so, to see who's the firstborn of Gotham so he can steal them and kidnap them. But Max has a different plan for him, and that is basically to make him mayor. And I kind of like that idea. And I think that should have been a better idea, because making the Penguin mayor, that should have been the sole movie of the movie, is the Penguin being mayor so he could run the show and basically, outlaw the Batman. But the side plot to this is you also have Michelle Pfeiffer played by... you have Michelle Pfeiffer being played by Michelle Pfeiffer. No, you have Michelle Pfeiffer playing Selena Kyle, and they don't go with the prostitute route or the rich debutante who's stealing from the rich and giving it to the poor. They go with the traditional nerdy person becoming more eccentric after a traumatic event, which they do in the next two Batman movies with Edward Nygma and Poison Ivy, Pamela Ivy. It kind of works here because she does start out kind of weak, defenseless, and all this stuff, and then it kind of does the whole Joker thing they do in the first movie, where it's Jack Napier meets the Joker. Jack Napier meets Batman first, and then Bruce Wayne meets the Joker, and then the two clash at the end of the movie. You could say, they did in the beginning of the museum scene, but I'll get into that in just a moment. So anyway, Selena Kyle discovers Max Schreck's plan to basically use the nuclear power plant to make it into a big capacitor. He pushes her out of a window. She nearly falls to her death, and she then becomes Catwoman due to that head trauma and stuff like that. Luckily, she survives that by falling through parasols, or that umbrella thing that comes out and blocks the rain and stuff like that. She falls through several of those, breaking her fall, and she kind of loses her mind and becomes Catwoman, which is one of the best scenes in the movie. Two best scenes in the movie. The first scene, it's her normal life where she's going in there normally and stuff like that. Second, was where she just gets the head trauma and she's like, oh, I forgot I'm not married. And then she destroys her apartment, and it's just like that glorious, glorious scene in that movie. Then so, so anyway, she comes Catwoman, and she's brilliant as Catwoman in this movie. Not the thief or like that, but she's just causing all sorts of mischief and chaos. Beating up criminals who are beating up women, chastising the weak women, blowing up, department stores and shit like that, getting the Bat's attention. And then you have the Penguin who, is letting his red gang, his red triangle gang, destroy Gotham City so that, they can replace the mayor, because that's Max Shreck's plan, is to make him mayor so they can replace the old mayor with the Penguin so he could do whatever the fuck he wants. And then, Batman's trying to solve that, and while that's happening, he's being enthralled with Selina Kyle, which is a great scene in the beginning of that movie where Selina Kyle, where Bruce Wayne goes to the meeting for Max Shreck, and he's like, if my secretary was here, she assists you out, and Selina shows up, and it's kind of a remnants of the first movie, because it's, Selina, because in the beginning, Batman meets Selina Kyle as Selina Kyle. Now Bruce Wayne is meeting Selina Kyle as Catwoman, but not in dress, but in the attitude. So, and you can see he's like, ooh, she's a freak like me. Oh, come on. Those two were meant for each other. Fuck that. No, I know. I don't care if Talia al Ghul is, much more important. Hey, if someone dresses up like a furry animal too, then never mind. Shit. God, I still love Batman Returns, so. Anyhow, cut forward, basically, anyhow, the movie ends with, Penguin's plans being foiled, and, Selina and Bruce finding out who each other are, and all this stuff, and, Max Shreck getting electrocuted by Selina, but she survives, the Penguin getting killed off, his plans failing. I forgot how great this Batman movie was. And the fact that, the controversy surrounding it, too, made me laugh because of, the dark themes and the Penguin's dripping mouth. There was controversy during this movie. And when I was a kid, I never really was... I was scared from, the scary image of, Max Shreck's fried face. And that was it, because some of it was freaky. But the other things, the Penguin's drew... Honestly, I wasn't scared. I knew this what kind of story it was. It was a Batman story. It was a Batman story. And usually they are not very happy all the ways and very triumphant like the first movie was. And also, kind of people forgot there was a little show that was running across this as well, called Batman the Animated Series, that was running alongside of this at the same time. And that was dark and macabre too, and also kind of showed that, Batman's stories are not going to always be happy-go-lucky, the day is saved. Sometimes the day is saved, but at what cost, Bittersweet, but yet that's always the case. And also this movie, ends bittersweetly, but then it turns into a good uproar. Because at the end, they still use he gets framed for killing the Ice Princess, that the Penguin and Catwoman plan, and, the Penguin just kind of pushes off a roof, and, they blame Batman because bats were surrounding that, and he was up there on the roof as well. But they were figuring, fuck it, the Penguin did it. We'll just blame it on that and plant some evidence. They justifiably. But, at the end, the bat signal goes out because they still need the bat, and you see Catwoman's silhouette. Perfect way to end that movie. And it wasn't dark. To me, it was perfect. It was the perfect Batman movie. The first movie is great and a good introduction. It's dark, but yet kind of charming in its own right. Again, with the cast and that. But you also have Prince in that album. But I'm not sure who sings, who's doing the music for that one. But I'll look it up. But I will talk about. Okay, so anyway, to me, it pissed me off because it's it's dark and, menacing and all that stuff. And there was a bunch of people who, like, this is my issue with with fucking culture, because honestly I wasn't really like turned off by it. I was like, this is Batman, right? This is the essence of Batman here. Dark, gruesome, macabre. Like, and also the fact that, you know, the animated series was running around it. And the fact that, like, oh, because kids won't buy McDonald's toys, oh, we're scaring the children, bullshit. Don't ever listen to the soccer moms, folks. And this is why I shout out these SJW people, because these are the same people from the 2000s, from the 2000s and teens, from the 2010s to the 2000s, to the 90s, to the 80s. And again, there was a lot of self-censorship in the 80s, but there were movies that weren't really censoring themselves, like RoboCop, Rambo, Die Hard, a lot of the action movies. And guess what? They made some movies off of the most violent movies out there. RoboCop, Predator, Aliens, my friend. Alien too. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Rambo. They make toys out of that. Yet, Batman can't be for. It's McDonald's and it's for kids. It's like, yeah, it's also for adults. Adults were reading the same shit too. Again, the gentrification of nerd culture gets annoying once in a while. But the thing that makes me laugh about this entire thing for the Batman, this movie, is the fact that there's a video of like a daytime talk show where a kid's talking. I didn't like the movie and I didn't understand. That kid is a shill. That kid was being bought and sold. If they really got a real kid, it'd be like, yeah, that movie was awesome. The Penguin was scary. Again, because I feel like this is the culture we're living in. While we have this overly offended culture, it's not because they're offended, because they should need to feel offended. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll talk about that in another video. But like, I feel like he was told to say this, otherwise he'd be. I don't want to be wrong, but. If it was me, I'd be like, no, I think this was a good Batman movie. Batman stories, like, kids, like, accept fiction more than adults, because adults are trying to find logic and reason in it. As we're kids, like, understand it. Even, like, mature stories like that. I understood it as a kid. Like, this is not a happy Batman story. It's kind of a dark Batman story. It's a sad Batman story, but it's not bad in the sense of just being bad. And I'm still trying to find that musician who was singing in that movie. Sal Got to Go. Can you tell me who sung in that movie, please? You are a music guy. You're my music man. You made me a song. Face to Face. That was the song by Suxens and the Banshees. I pronounced that name wrong, but that song kind of reminds me of a James Bond 90s James Bond song. Which, by the way, I'm missing the fantastical nowadays, because I just got started watching Batman Forever, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that movie's bad either, but I'll talk about that in another video. But Batman Returns. Again, is it dark? Yes, but is it bad? No. And I think people overreacted back in the 90s, because again, I would have still gone to McDonald's, when I was still going to McDonald's, and bought the gotten the Happy Meal and gotten the toys, because I wasn't offended. I actually dressed up like one of the Penguins in the movie for Halloween as a kid, and Batman. Holy shit. I love how adults freak out when there's like an adult. Like my nephew just discovered the term Rule 34, but not the meaning behind it. Where he's like, everybody at school shouts, oh, Rule 34, haha, Rule 34. Nobody understands. They don't understand it. So it's like the same. Like, they just laugh. It's like kids are smart. Here's the thing: kids are smart, but they're not worldly. Let me put it that way. They don't get the small innuendos. They get certain big things, like 2 + 2 = 4, but they don't get 2 times 2 = 4. In the sense of that, they don't pick up on the small little things. Like, there's sex jokes in that. Like, there's, like, little things in there where he's like, scented or unscented lotions, shit like that. Like, you don't get that. That doesn't register, because you're only caring about the story of how Batman's going to defeat, save the day. So, do I think Batman Returns is a good Batman movie? I think it's one of the best. I think after that, I think they fucked up after Batman, I might go on a little further, so this is going to be a two-parter. I'm always trying to make these short videos, but fuck it. Batman Returns, yes, go watch it because it's one of the best Batman movies out there. I give it 2 thumbs up, and they should have stuck with their guns and made Batman Forever with Tim Burton directing it with Billy D. Williams as Two-Face and Robin Williams as the Joker. That would have been interesting. Robin Williams as the Riddler instead of what we got, which is not a bad thing. I don't think Batman Forever, directed by Joel Schumacher, is bad, because I want to talk about that, and for the spoiler at the end of this, I will say this. Batman Forever is not a bad movie, nor did Joel Schumacher do anything wrong. In fact, Tim Burton didn't do anything wrong, because if you look at the first 2 Batman, their first Batman movies, very good, and you can tell that was a cooperation between the studio and the director, and both those movies sold properly well, marketable yet also artistically good. However, Returns is more artistically the director's doing everything. Basically, they gave more power to the director in Returns, opposed to, say, Batman Forever, which was the studio movie. And granted, I'm going to talk about Batman and Robin in another video, because I want to talk about how the studio absolutely buttlefucked that entire movie. Because honestly, people shit on Joel Schumacher for ruining that movie. Blame the suits. Blame the fucking suits. And it's like the same thing with like Marvel's, hellish trilogy of Blade 3, X-Men 3, and Spider-Man 3. I'll use Spider-Man 3 as an example. Raimi didn't want to use Venom. He wanted the Sandman and the Green Goblin. It was the studio that forced Venom down his throat. And I think that's the problem with that. Every time there's something wrong, they always blame the director, the creative people behind this. And it wasn't really the creative people who wanted... He didn't really want Venom in that movie in the beginning. And also the fact that Topher Grace was a better... Topher Grace could have been a good Spider-Man in another universe. Like, he has the look and he has, like, that charm to it. I'm honestly glad they went with Tobey Maguire, though, because Tobey definitely sells it, because he's, like, in a sense, Tobey is kind of like the same way Michael Keaton was with Batman. He sells it so fucking perfectly. Excuse my language, I swear a lot, and I'm drinking out of a bunny cup. So, with that final thought, I will give Batman Returns a 2 thumbs up and a different watch. And also, if you want to check out what Tim Burton's third Batman movie would have looked like, go look up Fanscript, I think it is. Let me look it up real quick. I might listen to that song later, but Fanscript, let me see here. Fanscript. Fanscription. So what this is basically, yeah, there is somebody actually made, like the guys at Channel Awesome, Doug Walker, Nostalgia Critic, all that nonsense. They did a what if Tim Burton directed Batman Forever, and they did also one where Harvey Dent was in Batman Returns. Or what if Spider-Man 4 happened? I'm honestly like impressed by this. I wonder. I honestly wonder. Like, I want to see what else they have in here. So they have. What if Luke Skywalker died? What if Zack Snyder directed Infinity War? Which I'm honestly not gonna watch that because I know they're gonna do jokes in those movies. So you know what I mean? Like, oh, how bad Zack Snyder is. I'll talk about Zack Snyder in another video. I wanted to continue this so that I didn't have just one big video and one short video. So, yeah. Instagram, please extend your fucking time on that. 15 minutes is fine, but can we go a little bit longer? Like say 30 minutes, maybe 60 minutes? Assholes! Okay then. Zuckerberg. Alright. Take care. Love you. Bye-bye. And remember to watch Batman Returns. Because I want to talk, after I'm done watching those entire Batman movies, because I want to talk about something very important to me, and I have to remember this, so you got to remind me. So, I want to talk about, oh, they have an interesting one right there about Spider-Man 3, but I want to talk about the difference between the 90s comic book movies and now, because I want to talk about realism versus surrealism, so take care.